What's going on, guys? So this video is definitely going to be an interesting topic. I'm here inside of the RV. I just did some repair work on it and some upgrades. So typically when you're working with RVs, it's usually a combination of repairing things as well as upgrading things, because we always want our RVs to be better while at the same time ensuring that the things that break or just possibly weren't done well are resolved. So it's usually, again, it's two sides to everything. I'm upgrading and repairing, and I try to shoot content on all of this stuff. So you're probably going to see some videos out on some of the things that I've had to repair and some of the things that I am upgrading. That said, this video is kind of in response to a video that I had put up for a while. I was actually out in Indiana at the dealer open house event. Me and my eTrailer friends were walking around the Grand Design section, and it was empty. There's no one out there because this was actually 2 days before the show started, and they set everything up weeks and weeks in advance. This is all the manufacturers that are out there. We couldn't get into any of the units. There were no dealers out there yet. It was basically a few folks that were setting plants out and I guess just cleaning everything up, getting ready for the show. And I think we had just gotten a lot of rain too. But regardless, we were out there, we were walking around, and one of the eTrailer folks who I'd featured in a video while we were at Alliance basically said that he and his family are looking at getting into RVing, and most likely a fifth wheel. And he asked me, because of all the controversy surrounding Grand Design, is this a brand that I would endorse, that I would say is a great brand to buy and better than others, equal to, or should we stay away from it? Basically is what he asked me. And I decided, you know, let's make a video on this. Let's talk about this because I'm sure this is a question that's hanging over a lot of folks. So we're going to talk about it in this video, as well as address a lot of comments that were made after I posted that video. Mainly, I know they were from a Facebook page that is really critical against the quality issues, the deception, what they feel, you know, is taking place with Grand Design, especially a lot of Grand Design owners. I think the vast majority of them are Grand Design owners who have a lot of negative feelings about the brand because of what they've been through, because of what they've been subjected through, because of how they feel they've been treated and lied to, or how they actually have been treated and lied to in many cases. And we're going to try to address a lot of that in this video. So hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so after I posted that video, again, there was like 100 and something comments that appeared almost overnight, and I get what happened, right? I'm actually speaking to the person who created the Facebook page that's kind of dedicated to talking about these stories and having folks who own Grand Designs and possibly other brands. I don't know. I'm not a member of this Facebook page. It's a private group, and it's specifically set up for Grand Design owners, I believe, because one of the rules if you want to join it is that you have to have a Grand Design, and there's probably a little bit of a vetting that goes on behind that. But I'm not a member of it. I don't have any ties to this channel at all, or this group at all. But I believe somebody shared the video to that group, and then about 6,000 people on that group had access to viewing it, and a lot of them jumped over to my channel and started posting some pretty harsh comments. And they were really rightfully harsh, because these are people who have actively been disappointed with the experience they've had with their RV. And again, I believe these are mainly going to be Grand Design, because this is a Grand Design Facebook page. And these folks join this Facebook page as a means to try to get some resolution to their problems through group action, right? Through advocacy, basically building awareness with a lot of other people who are similarly minded, because they've all had issues with their product and they don't feel that the manufacturer has stepped up to take care of them. So I support that. I really do. I actually support it when people get together to try to get things fixed, because as an individual, it's very, very difficult. But as a group, you have a much louder voice, and you can build a bigger case against those who you feel have wronged you, and hopefully you get resolution. And I am 100% for that, even in the RV world. As much as people may think that my relationship to the RV world is completely predicated on me keeping them happy, you're probably going to be really surprised when you hear the facts about it after this video. So, first of all, I did not have any issue with people jumping over and being critical against a manufacturer who they feel have wronged them. What I had a problem with is that people blatantly kind of jumped over and they were making accusations against me as if I'm being paid by Grand Design or they're sponsoring me, or that I have any tie into the industry so deep that I'm not willing to speak critically about it. And I think for the most part, people who have watched my channel know that I speak pretty damn critically about the RV industry in terms of construction, what they need to do better, what they're doing wrong, and what I believe is a better path. That was one of the reasons why, after brainstorming of how I could actively contribute to that effort, I came up with the RV Quality Star program, which unfortunately didn't kick off because I'm only one person. I actually had a few other advocacy groups reach out to me that wanted to help administer it, but the complexity of trying to get everything lined up the way it would need to be lined up for it to roll out was kind of overwhelming. And it's not that we're not moving forward with it, it's just, it's a lot more complex with a lot more requirements and moving parts and oversight than I had originally thought. And I actually asked my viewers if they wanted to participate in it and actually be part of the qualification council to determine what needs to be done to qualify for this program. I did not want this to be an RVIA, a Lippert, a Grand Design, an Alliance, a Brinkley. I did not want them to manage the program. This needed to be managed by people who own the RVs, people who are buying these RVs and dealing with the problems and are expecting better. But to be honest with you, I didn't get a lot of people reaching out to me. I maybe got a dozen or two that reached out and said that, yeah, I'd like to play some part in this. But again, we didn't get far enough, and logistically speaking, there's a lot more to it than just saying, hey, here's a cool new program, jump on board and start making changes. Because at the end of the day, you have to have some understanding that we're talking to a legacy-driven organization of RV manufacturers who are very, let's just say, stuck in their ways. And being stuck in their ways doesn't necessarily equate to quick, rapid changes to current model lineups or even the next year model lineups and having them rapidly upgraded with features and things that are needed to make them adhere to a program like this, if all of that makes sense. All of that said, I am 100% pro RV consumer. I absolutely am. And I think most people who have known me, met me, and even RV manufacturers who have collaborated with me, like Coachman, like some of the other Forest River products, Palomino Paws, Alliance, Brinkley, they know that when I'm out there and I'm talking to them and they ask me what they could be doing better, number one, first and foremost, I say, fix your quality control issues. Make better RVs. Stop putting lipstick on a pig, making things look nicer on the inside, and not focusing on things that are going to make it go down the road and last longer, so people who are investing their hard-earned money into this lifestyle can have something that they can trust. That has always been my message. Now, because I walk through RVs and I do RV reviews and I show you floor plans and things like that, just like I tell people, I cannot be overly critical about a specific unit that I'm walking through at that specific moment. And the whole reason why, and again, if you think about this, you'll probably understand, is because what I'm walking through is one example of hundreds, if not thousands, of that floor plan that will be produced. And because they're all produced by people, by hundreds of hands putting them together, people who are trying to feed their families, people who have their own problems, who have bills they have to pay, people who are trying to stay employed and work, I have some empathy for those people, and I understand not everything is going to be perfect. Lord knows I'll try to make furniture for my wife sometimes, and I'll miss nails. I'll not get it the way I want it to be, and I'll have to start over, or it will break, or it's not going to perform the way that I had hoped. So I have empathy there too. I'm not just saying that everything has to be perfect. I understand that there's very little automation to this industry. It's all done by hand. The challenge I ultimately have is that I think the manufacturers know that because these are built by hand and because there are more likely problems that could arise during the manufacturing process, I don't think they step up enough to try to address those. Sometimes it means slowing some things down. Sometimes it means putting extra people in the factories to make sure things are done correctly. But when I'm walking through a unit and I see something broken, I see something that's fallen apart, I instantly want to analyze how that could have happened. If a door comes off of its slides, if a fire extinguisher mount's broken off the wall, if some part of the frame is broken, if some piece is bent or something's just not working, I'm trying to figure out how that could happen. I don't just arbitrarily say this thing's junk. I don't just arbitrarily say that it had to have hit a hard bump. I don't arbitrarily say that maybe it was somebody walking through the unit that kicked it. There's a lot of things that go into an RV by the time it gets to a dealership lot. So I'm trying to be open-minded to all of that. Now, that's the reason why, yes, I do review RVs. I walk through them and I try to point out floor plans, innovation, things that I like, but I can't go and inspect every aspect of the frame, the axles, the springs, the wiring. I can't do all that, or it will make a video that I'm trying to fit into about 12 to 15 minutes, 2 hours long, and that's not the point. If you're watching my RV review videos, those are basically me just reviewing the interior, the exterior, and talking about changes, innovations, and things that they've done that are cool and creative. And then also criticizing areas where I think they could have done better. Like focus less attention on a fancy gadget over here and put more into the suspension. Put suspension equalizers on everything. I have made these claims time and time again. I don't know why the RV industry just hasn't moved to a 100% enhanced suspension system on all RVs. If you want to realize why a lot of RVs have the problems they do, is because of the amount of shaking they incur going down the road. And if you can do things like enhance the suspension that can help mitigate that, why not do it? Balance the tires. That's another big one. If the RV is shaking like this the whole time it's going down the road, just like a vehicle would be if you didn't have weights on the tires or the wheels, it's going to be a really rough ride, and all you're doing is creating more of a scenario where things are going to fall apart and break. So I'm critical against the industry that they're not taking these tiny little, very inexpensive steps to just get rid of as much shaking and vibration as possible. Those of you out there with RVs, and those of you with problems, can you and I agree that if there were suspension components that were better designed to be able to absorb the shock and vibration, whether it's on the suspension itself or coupling the suspension to the PinBox, but can we agree that that would at least help reduce some of the problems people have with RVs? Some of the fittings that break loose, some of the trim that falls off, some of the slide outs that get out of alignment, some of the things that fall apart inside of the RV, the nails, the tacks, all this stuff that we're also critical about, it would reduce some of that if the suspension was better able to handle the shock and vibration and keep it from transferring into this largely aluminum, wood, Azdel, and fiberglass box, right? I think we can all kind of agree on that. The second part of this is really understanding if the manufacturers are focusing on techniques and methods that are actually going to prevent their RVs from falling apart when they're being towed. I think that's the other part that is really, really sad about the industry, is that there's so much attention given to equipping RVs with stuff, making them heavy, putting more tile in, putting heavier residential appliances in, putting bigger batteries in, putting larger water tanks in, doing things that ultimately, at the end of the day, look great when you walk through them, but all add to the weight and the stress that the frame now has to absorb, the sidewalls, the roof, all of that has to absorb. You know, when I interviewed Lippert, they made it very clear in the videos that the entire structure together works as a semi-monocoque construction to make the entire thing solid, like an aircraft fuselage or a semi-truck dry van trailer. If you don't have the sidewalls or the roof, things fall apart. Okay, if that is widely known, whether you agree with that or not, but if that is the sentiment from Lippert and the manufacturers know this, why aren't the boxes being constructed and fastened together in a much stronger, more secure manner? Why aren't they using better techniques? That's the thing that I think can easily be incorporated, and that was part of the idea behind the RV Quality Star program, was that they would do that. They would start using better fasteners, stronger fasteners, things that don't take extra time during the assembly process, but equate to a huge improvement in terms of longevity for an RV traveling down the road. I think all of these things are just basic, general, evolutionary things that the manufacturer should do. Now, people want to know my opinion on Grand Design, so I'm gonna echo it again, because I think the first time I talked about it in the previous video, it probably wasn't said in a way that people truly understood. So again, one of the eTrailer folks had asked me, would I consider a Grand Design RV, considering everything they've been through? And I said yes. The reason why is because I don't honestly feel that the stuff they're building is any better or any worse than what Forest River, Thor, even Alliance, and many of the other brands are building, because they're doing it the same freaking way. Most of the construction methods used in the RV industry are used by all of them because their employees have jumped from one company to another company, and their designers, their engineers, all of that, and they're doing it the same way. So if you buy a Grand Design and it's fully furnished, fully loaded with tons of stuff, it's going to be heavy. They should, and very likely, hopefully, have gotten the message, and they've started to put heavier duty frames, spec their frames a little bit better in terms of being able to handle that weight. Oh, basically ordering an overbuilt frame. If Lippert claims they will make the frame to a customer specification, then damn it, put the extra money in and make the frame to a specification that you know can withstand what customers could subject it to. Yes, I know, and I've shared that people typically don't RV that much in a year. Most people that get an RV use it between 2 and 6 times a year. Usually 20 nights a year is the average that most RVers say that they use their RV, even though before buying it, they claim they're going to use it a lot more than that. But the reality is, it's usually between 2 and 6 trips, about 20 nights, and about 1,000 miles a year. That's not much. It may not seem like much to some people, and if the manufacturers build them to that usage standard, then they are underbuilding them to anybody who uses them beyond that. Which means if you want to be someone who hits the road and lives the lifestyle that you see in the marketing videos, that you see in the commercials, that you see in all of the RV dealership advertisements where somebody's by a lake in the mountains in their fifth wheel, then they need to be built to be able to withstand that. They need to be able to be built to withstand a good amount of usage. Now, I am under no illusion that an RV is not designed to be used as much as a car, right? It's suspension, the components, the fit and finish, the automation behind building it, the tolerances, none of that stuff. The engineering alone to build a car or an SUV or a pickup truck is typically in the hundreds of millions of dollars. I would venture to say the engineering to build a typical RV is probably in the $10,000 or less range. It's not much because they're just simply adapting a new design to something they've already been building forever. But what I'm trying to say here is I get it. I get that, you know, the understanding needs to be there that RVs shouldn't be used every single day, towed down the road every day like you hop in your car or your SUV or your truck to go to work and back every day. However, there are a lot of folks who want to use their RV several times a month throughout the entire year. They might use their RV 40 times a month in a year. They may use their RV, 10 times a year, but travel 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 miles for their trips. The RVs need to be able to withstand that type of usage if that's what it's being marketed as. If the manufacturers, and again, this is the point I made in the other video, truly marketed their RVs to how most people use them, I don't think people would buy RVs. I don't think people would. I think if they say, hey, if you plan on using your RV 2 to 6 times a year under 20 nights, this is the lifestyle for you. But if you want to use it more than that, don't buy an RV because it's going to fall apart on you. You're going to have tons and tons of problems. And when you buy an RV, you better check it out, get it inspected and everything before you pull it off of the dealership lot, before you sign the final paperwork, because you probably already have 24 problems that need to be addressed before you ever pull it off of the dealership lot. I don't think people would buy RVs. I think for the most part, people still buy RVs, even though they understand that they're not built real well. I think a lot of people who buy an RV walk through it and they're like, ooh, why did that happen? Why is that broken? Why does that look bad? But they buy it because the salesperson or the dealership convinced them that it wasn't a big deal and that it can get resolved or it will be resolved, or that it was a perfectly good reason why that happened, so you shouldn't worry about it. We'll fix it, get you on your way, and you'll have your new RV. Most people that get into RVing don't use their RVs very much, so they typically don't experience a ton of headaches. Some people experience headaches the minute they pull it off of the lot. Some people experience headaches the first time they take it out on their first trip. But the vast majority of people enjoy the RV lifestyle. You can have 50 to 60,000 people. You can have 100,000 people that complain and say the RVs are horrible. We've had a horrible experience. It sucks. These things break. They're trash. But you have 11 million plus RVs that people own in North America. And of that, I think there's a couple million of them at least that are full-timers. And yes, the people who are having problems, it's a lot of folks. And the manufacturers need to step up and listen to the fact that people want to have a quality product for the money they spend. This is, in some cases, people's retirement, their life savings, their money that they're putting into a lifestyle that's been glamorized, and it's not meeting that because they're being built to the larger percentage of people who are simply using them a few times a year when they need to be built better. Now, I understand, and I'm under no illusion, that the price of RVs go up when the quality of RVs go up, right? Living vehicle is a perfect example of that. I don't think there are very many people who own a living vehicle, spent the $300,000 to $800,000 on a 26 to 28 foot travel trailer, who would say that it's built bad, who would say that there's quality issues. I actually got an email from somebody who owns a living vehicle. I think it may be their second one, I can't recall. And their complaint was that it is sealed so tight that the carbon dioxide buildup inside of it could be dangerous. I mean, when was the last time you heard of an RV sealed up that tight? And that the ventilation, the way of getting air out, needs to be revamped so it can mix, so it can basically mix that up and get you fresher air coming in. I mean, these are problems you don't hear about with your general $60,000 to $150,000 RV, right? These are problems that you hear about on RVs that, man, I can't think of anything else that's wrong with this thing, so this is the only thing that I can think about. And it's a perfectly legitimate concern, but think about that. And people spend that type of money on those types of RVs because they have this perception that I'm getting so much more quality for what I'm spending. I'm getting mini splits instead of your traditional air conditioning units. I'm getting much better insulation. I'm getting a unit that is even advertised as something that you could sit out in the middle of nowhere, and it's pretty much self-sustainable, and it's not going to fail, and you could come back out to it in a year and it will still be sitting there, dirty on the outside, but still completely functional with no problems. That's what they're spending $300,000 to $800,000 on a 26 to 28 foot travel trailer for. So when you look at brands like ATC, who build phenomenal aluminum travel trailers, when you look at brands even like Brinkley, who I would say are a notch above in terms of quality a lot of the other brands, when you look at Airstream, who has definitely had a more tarnished reputation lately, but they still build arguably a little better unit. When you look at brands like Palomino Paz, where it's super small, but the thing is like $150,000. When you look at Patriot, and you look at these brands that have reputations for being amazingly well constructed, take anywhere, do anything with, they're stupid expensive. They're very, very expensive. Lightship, Pebble, these brands are over $250,000 in many cases. And people will look at them and say they're only for the rich. The average person should be able to afford an RV. I agree with that. The concern I have is that if all the manufacturers take the quality approach they need to have, and they should have been doing, will the lifestyle no longer be affordable? Because if these companies aren't growing to their investors and to their leadership, they're failing. And at what point do they get shut down because they're no longer a profitable company, because they're building things that last, that are absolutely rock solid, that have great wiring, that have great plumbing, that have everything that's great, but they're not building enough of them to sustain the company to meet the demand of the consumer or the dealership networks, and all of a sudden the parent companies are like, well, it's not profitable anymore. We got to shut them down or absorb them into another brand. We see that happen in the industry time and time again, and I don't have an answer to that. I don't. I work with different RV manufacturers, like collaborating with them to say, hey, what I think you should do is this, this, and this, focus on quality. And the answers I get is, yeah, let's try to do that. But are we pricing ourselves out of what somebody's willing to pay? And if all these other manufacturers are still producing lower quality units, and we have this one super high quality, or at least let's just say above average quality unit that costs more, but it doesn't look as fancy on the inside, and the dealerships are trying to sell the ones that look fancier because they're easier to sell, then what do they do? What's the alternative? What's the remedy to that? How do you get a manufacturer to say, well, ours might be built better, but we're not going to sell as many of them, and because we don't sell as many of them, we run the risk of the parent company shutting us down, right? There are boutique brands that are out there that make their own frames, that do their entire own construction, and that's great. But in many cases, they're more susceptible to really, really bad times in the economy, and they're really susceptible to being put out of business. You know, if anything changes that makes their sales drop below what they're currently at. Some brands do pretty well still. Some brands have a good dealership network and they're able to market their brand well. But to the vast majority of people who are looking to buy an RV and get their family in the car and drive down to a dealership that's, you know, 10 minutes to 2 hours away and want to see a fully stocked yard full of RVs with a lot of different options from 15 different brands, the challenge here is, A, have they even heard the message of you almost get what you pay for? I don't say you get what you pay for, but you almost get what you pay for. Or have they heard the message of quality over cosmetics? Have they heard the message of pay a little bit more for the things that are important to make your RV last longer? Or are they just trying to get into the lifestyle in the most affordable, lowest price thing that they can budget for? Because again, you can have 6,000 people who are having problems with a specific brand. You can have 10,000 people who have problems every month with the RV industry and think that their Forest River, their Thor, their Winnebago unit is junk. You can have people think that and have those problems and experience the stress and the nightmare and the life-altering changes that these problems carry with them. But is that enough? Are those enough examples of problems that the industry is going to change so dramatically that dealerships no longer have inventory to sell to people who are looking for a $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 stick and tin unit? Quality to them isn't a huge deal. Things like that. Yes, they're going to go into it thinking I'm buying something that should hold up, and it probably will hold up for the most part, but there's probably going to be issues with it. It'll probably have super cheap tires on it. It'll probably have super cheap, you know, wrapped wood trim and stuff that'll start peeling off soon. But if that family who really, 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 really wants that RV because they want to get into the lifestyle and they haven't done a lot of research on YouTube and they're not part of these Discord forums and these groups, if they're just trying to get into an RV and their maximum budget is $25,000 and that's all they can afford, do we basically tell them you shouldn't RV, right? You shouldn't get one. You should just watch other people, but you shouldn't, because this is what the manufacturers are going to put out at that price range, because it's designed to sell in quantity to make a profit, not the quality of it to make a profit, if that makes sense. So that's the question we ultimately have to ask ourselves, right? The people who are walking these RV show lots and these arenas where you're seeing hundreds and hundreds and thousands of RVs at a time, are they going in with a budget that if RVs were built and regulated the way many people would like them to be, specifically legacy RVers who have been RVing for a while and are dealing with problems really associated with that lifestyle, are we telling those people that you're now going to be priced out of RVs because of the regulations, because of the cost of enhancing safety? I know a lot of people are going to say it doesn't cost any more to do little things. I agree, and that's what I'm pushing for. And I think most people are willing to pay $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 more if it means they get better suspension, better fasteners, a better sealed roof, better inspections. I think people are willing to pay more, and I think the manufacturers need to be aware of that. But they are hyper laser focused on cutting cost and saving money so they can produce as many units as possible to fulfill demand. And I think that is a shame. I really is. They need to slow down. They need to put a little bit of extra money and time in, especially in areas that matter. And that's the key. It needs to be done in a way that matters. Take some of the glamour out, but then again, you do run the risk that they're just going to go to, somebody's going to go and buy the one that has a little bit more glamour, not realizing that it's lacking things that could actually make it last longer. That's the problem, is the education side of the house. When I was reading the emails from this gentleman who has this Facebook page, he basically is saying that unless you snuck onto my page, you have no idea what people are saying. And that's true, because I'm not going to sneak onto his Facebook channel. It's not anything I would ever do. And I have no idea of the problems they're dealing with unless I happen to be subscribed to somebody's YouTube channel like Greg Carson's or some of the other channels that are out there. So if I can't access these pages where people are having problems, and the only time I'm going to hear about them in mass is when I post a video that they disagree with, and they come on my channel and they post hundreds of comments calling me a sellout and a shill and all this stuff. Well, if you're part of a group that has these problems, and the only way you become part of that group is by having the problems, and it's a private group, then there's no way that I'm going to know about it. I don't just actively go out and try to find every group that has problems with RVs. Shoot, all the general forums, IRV2 and all of those, Forest River Forum, all of them, you see tons of people that have problems. It's no surprise that there's people with problems, but to have a group that is locked down in a way that they can complain, they can build advocacy, they can talk about, which is absolutely great, and I agree with that. And I don't even know that group exists until they've essentially attacked one of my videos. It's really, really hard for me to become part of the solution with them. Now, some people are going to say, hey, let's just start sending them tons of emails and we'll just share every possible, story with them. Well, I can't read all those. The reality is I need to work closer with people who lead these groups so we can find the overwhelming concerns that are similar and raise those concerns up and try to get those resolved. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, whether you hate your RV because you've had tons of problems and the manufacturer's not helping you, they are sticking it to you, they're not stepping up to fix things, they've bragged about the lifestyle, yet your lifestyle's turned to crap because you can't enjoy it because your huge RV that you've invested money in isn't working, it's failing, it's breaking, it's doing things like that. I think we all still can agree we want everyone to enjoy the RV lifestyle, and the only way to do that is to make it better through awareness, through advocacy, through making sure that stories are heard and people are understanding what challenges exist. As long as we're practical about it, as long as we're civil about it, as long as we can have the conversation, and as long as we can be honest about that conversation. I specifically know of examples where people have damaged their RV. And they've reached out to me to say, this happened, but I don't want them to know because I'm upside down on this thing 80 grand. And I want to be honest with them, but if I tell them, they're going to deny my warranty claim. And I don't think that's the majority. I think that that's a very, very small minority, but it does happen. So we have to be honest about things that occur that can potentially be the reason why our RV is failing. I don't think, again, it's widespread, so don't just come back and hate on me for saying that. But the reality of it is not everyone wants to take responsibility or ownership of the things that they do. The manufacturing side of the house is crap and it needs to get fixed. The manufacturers are all actually really passionate about their products. Unfortunately, their passion typically is for, hey, look at this new floor plan I can build. Hey, look at the new decor I put in here. Hey, look at the new electronics. Hey, look at this feature. Hey, look how light it is. Look how long it is. Hey, look how long of a toy you can fit in the back. That's what they get passionate about. They get excited about it. It actually makes them feel good when they come out with a really unique floor plan that looks amazing and has cool features and tech. But they usually don't get excited about the stuff that actually really, really matters to a lot of folks who are trying to live in these things and use them, such as, did we spec the frame strong enough? Did we put the best suspension components? Did we put the best tires? Did we avoid electrical issues? Did we do the right plumbing? Did we use the right connectors and valves? Did we use things in our RV that will actually make it last? Again, look at the requirements of the RV Quality Star program on my website and you'll see what those requirements are, and they're not easy. And in many cases, I was actually getting emails from people who were very, very in favor of RV manufacturers changing and creating a better quality product, saying, I don't know if they can meet these standards. They're too harsh. How do they come up with this many new innovative solutions that enhance the safety, towability, and longevity of an RV every single year, year over year over year, to stay in the program? That was the feedback I was getting. And that was another reason why we had to kind of pump the brakes on it a little bit. But at the end of the day, and I'm wrapping this video up because this is a rant video, right? This is not a review video. That's why you're staring at the same thing in the background. Hopefully you're just playing the audio. But at the end of the day, I want a better RVing experience for everybody. I advocate for it. I tell manufacturers it. I tell Lippert it. When I was with Lippert and after all those interviews wrapped up, I told them, shoot, for probably an hour and a half, speaking specifically to Jared Lippert, what they need to do, in my opinion, that would make their product so much more appealing. And believe it or not, they took the information, and there was some movement there, and there is movement there. I think touring suspension is a really good example of some movement. I think the Helix PinBox, a really good example of movement, and some things that I can't disclose because it is under NDA, and NDA towards product development is something every company who develops products do. But there is some really, really crazy stuff that they have worked on, and they're going to be offering to manufacturers if the manufacturers choose to opt for it. So they're a piece of it. They're a component. The manufacturers also have to opt for it. What can you do as a buyer? Look at brands that have a reputation of quality. Look for brands that have a reputation for building things that are designed to last, and buy those brands and don't buy the ones that fail. That's what you can do. Do your research. Dig in. Make sure that's what you're looking for, and make sure that you understand that that will come with a price, but you're willing to pay that price. Because if RV manufacturers, the general ones, the big ones, realize that you're willing to pay for quality, they'll start including more quality in their RVs. And your expectations will now be set at a higher level. Those are all things that I think people need to start realizing, wanting, understanding, and buying whenever they're spending their money on an RV. If you can spend a little more, even if it means going to a slightly smaller unit, if you can spend a little more, even if it means going to one with maybe not all the amenities you're looking for, but it sure as hell has a rock solid frame, awesome suspension, great electrical plumbing work, the roof membrane, all of that stuff is great, then that's what you should do. That's why I'm a big fan of like Riverstone. I'm not a fan of Riverstone because of the legacy stuff they're doing that I don't care for. I'm a fan because they put the right size axles, they put the right wheels, the right tires, the right brakes, the right suspension. They put the right fiberglass roof membrane on. They put the right sidewalls in, the right windows. They're doing things right. They adhere the frame or attach the frame to the sidewalls and the sidewalls to the frame correctly. They do things in ways that, yes, demand a lot more money, but it's more likely to give you a better experience in the long run. So that's the message here. And I hope that I haven't made people think, again, I'm some huge fan of Grand Design. No one from Grand Design has ever sponsored me. They've never spent a penny on me. But yeah, I've never collaborated with them. I've never been sponsored by them. Don Clark, I don't even really know the guys. I know it's been thrown around a lot with like Greg and the issues he dealt with them. But the fact is, I've never communicated with anybody at that level at Grand Design ever. I just don't communicate with them. There's very few manufacturers I have that type of communication with, to be honest with you. Most of the brands I've communicated closely with would be Brinkley, Alliance, and several Forest River brands. Because I've actually had a lot of communication with Lux over the years, Living Vehicle, Pause, and then Riverstone I've had a lot. Well, they're also a Forest River brand. But yeah, I mean, when we reach out, it's like, hey, what are you doing different? What's new about your product? What's better about your product? That's the type of conversations that we have. Let's see what's new for this model year lineup, those kind of things. But it's never like, hey, just talk good about my product, because I criticize every brand. It doesn't matter what brand it is. I've criticized them, whether they're stupid expensive, and that's the reason why they deserve criticism, or because they're not doing things right, or because they could be doing things better. But I guarantee you, one recurring message they always hear from me is that the quality needs to be improved, that they need to improve the quality of their units, because that's what people expect and that's what they're spending their money on. Hopefully. It's not up to me to decide what's important to a consumer, but things become really important when things start breaking and you're out on a camping trip. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this cleared things up for a lot of folks. And I think there's a lot of folks who watch my channel who have already known this, because even that video, which was really, you know, taken over the comment section by the folks from this Facebook page, it still got like 84% thumbs up and likes. So the vast majority of people still enjoyed the video and agreed with it, but I think that video needed clarification, and I think a lot of people needed to hear this message as well. Anyways, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you haven't had a chance, I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up if you like the content here. Leave a comment below. I really want to hear it. I just don't have time for a comment section that's exploding with hate. It's fine if it's negative, if it's criticism. It's fine if it's this is my experience with a certain brand, the problems I've had. It's fine if you're happy with everything you've had. If you are thrilled with the quality of your RV or you're fine with it and you want to talk about that, share that as well. There should always be two sides to every coin, right? It can't always be about negativity. There's got to be positivity mixed in there as well. So leave comments. Be critical, be positive, be whatever you want to be. Don't feel like you have to pigeonhole yourself to just leaving a negative or a positive comment because everyone else is doing it. Anyways, again, please drop a comment below. I'd love to know your thoughts.